broth cooked from the peas and so forth, similar to mixed flavored drinks, such as one from jaggery, and so on. Of course, Chandrakirti Lex doesn't have the scientific terminology because he's a 7th century person, so he gives the analogy of the fruit and so forth in order to illustrate the example of atomic structures. The second argument, sorry, the same argument. Moreover, without any atomic particles being co-dependent upon 7 other particles, no 8th atomic particles is individually real. For this reason, atomic particles do not exist intrinsically. If they were to exist intrinsically, says Chandrakirti, there will be no need for each individual atom to be dependent on other 7 particles. And it is the case that they exist atomic particles, and one does apprehend that each individual atom is designated in dependence upon each 7 particles. This same argument from the 8th atomic particle, says Chandrakirti, needs to be applied in the case of atoms with 9 or 10 or 11 atomic particles. Therefore, for these reasons, 5 sense organs, like the eyes and so forth, says Chandrakirti, along with 5 objects, are like the reflections. Atomic particles are like the reflections in terms of reflecting each other's codependence or constitutiveness. Therefore, whenever one of these 4 elements is present, they present the rest. Wherever the rest is present, they present the other. They are thus mutually coextensive, since they cannot exist without being mutually dependent. They are not real by their intrinsic nature. And given that sensory organs are epistemically efficient, the atomic particles that they are constituted must therefore be codependent and empty of any intrinsic reality. The second argument, the causal argument. Furthermore, Chandrakirti says, for Chandrakirti, intrinsic real atoms would be without cause. For being causally conditioned and for being intrinsically real are mutually exclusive. And whatever is causeless on his account cannot in any way forever exist, therefore cannot perform any function. But because one perceives the existence of each atomic particle as being dependent on 7 other particles, its intrinsic nature is not apprehended, as it is the case with earth element, houses, and so on. Therefore, the atomic particles of the sensory organs are causally conditioned, lack intrinsic nature, hence cannot be intrinsically real, unique particulars. So for Chandrakirti's intrinsic, excluding the intrinsic. So for Chandrakirti, non-intrinsic, excluding the intrinsic, and non-foundational, excluding the foundational, atomic particles of the sensory organs do exist. So are the atoms of the sensory objects. Therefore, they constitute the categories of Prasangika's conventional truths. Such atomic particles, stress Chandrakirti, are only nominally designated as atoms in order to express their relative subtlety in their sizes. This nominal designation process is plausible on Chandrakirti's account because of the atom's fundamental lack of any intrinsic nature or unique particularity. If the Pramanika and Swatantika's atomic theory was correct one, then there would be no reason to nominally designate atoms or the smallest entities as atoms, because atoms would be seen on that account as intrinsically natured, having unique particulars, and therefore without designating them any names or identifications, the atoms themselves should be able to reveal their intrinsic nature as atoms, or having unique particularity as atoms. Just as it is incoherent to give names to intrinsically real atoms for the reason that such entity would be non-causal, hence linguistically non-dependent, intrinsically natured atoms of sensory organs would render extraneous the efficiency of sensory organs. In conclusion, Chandrakirti is relentless in his critique of the foundationalist thesis concerning the sensory organs and their epistemic functions. But it is not denying the existence of organs and their epistemic functions. And this he makes clear in his commentary, quote, "It is because our analysis is primarily concerned with searching the intrinsic natures of the objects. Here, in this context, we are negating the things that are established by intrinsic natures. We do not negate the eyes and so forth, which are arisen due to the effects of causal production and dependence. Thus, the eyes and the like do indeed exist, for we say that they are effects of the volitional actions. It is clear then, for Chandrakirti, the epistemic efficiency of sensory organ is one that must necessarily be drawn from the non-intrinsic, unreal ontological structure of the sensory organs." Thank you. I ran as fast as possible.